that?
The ball.
Welcome to G.A.M.E.R Unite. I'm your host, G.A.M.E.R here, and finally, the highly anticipated sequel to the 2018 smash hit God of War has released worldwide on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. That's right, God of War Ragnarok has hit shelves, and fans and critics are raving. It is without a doubt one of the biggest releases of the year so far, and in this generation. I have fully beaten its main story and a few side quests, and as a longtime God of War fan, I can confidently say it was well worth the wait. I have plenty of things I want to say and talk about, so let's discuss how these reviews will work here on the brand new channel. Every review will be broken up into 5 sections: the introduction, which we are currently in, the good, the mixed, the bad, and the results. For most reviews, the talking will be unscripted and will receive my raw reaction and thoughts. I am not a critic. I am a fan and a player. I am a huge supporter of the game industry and take every game with a fair and open-minded expectation. You may not always agree with me, and that's okay, but please know that these are my opinions and I would love to discuss games in the comment sections. With that being said, I will be looking at every game with a personal viewpoint to help you all understand my opinion on the game, and a critical viewpoint to help you all understand what kind of game you would be getting into if maybe you are interested or debating about buying the game. I will do my best to give you as much information and insight as I can, but in the end, these are still my opinions and you will more than likely disagree. Please beware, all my reviews will contain spoilers for the games we are reviewing, so if you don't want to be spoiled, leave now. With that being said, Ragnarok is here, so let's get started with the good.
About time.
Absolutely, I think this game is a sequel. That's the best thing about this game, is that it is a sequel. Because it's exactly what a sequel should be. That is kind of my overall assumption of this game, and basically what I wanted it to be, and kind of what it is. And like, I can't say, there are no words to describe actually how good this game is, except it is exactly what a sequel should be. It improves on every aspect that the first game and every game before really set up for it. The story, the characters, the gameplay, the combat, the music, the visuals, everything is just absolutely an improvement. I don't think there's one part of the game that I would say is weaker than any of the other games in the series. That being said, the game isn't perfect, and you will hear some of my criticisms at the end, but let's get started talking about the good. And I think, without a doubt, the first thing you're gonna have to talk about with a game like this is the story, and it delivers on every note. It never misses a beat. From start to finish, it is a brilliantly told story, super emotional, super epic, and exactly what you want from God of War with the title Ragnarok. Yeah, now that is a big thing. Leading into this game, it was given the name Ragnarok. You get a lot of expectations when you put Ragnarok in the title of something, and it delivered and exceeded anything I could have imagined that this game could have done. The final mission in the game is peak storytelling, peak gameplay, and peak gaming. I think the final mission really just sealed the deal for really how great this game actually is. Without a doubt, the writing is phenomenal. I think that is my biggest takeaway from the story, is it never rushes anything. It never rushes anything, and it's never too slow. It takes everything just as it should be. Every scene with Kratos either thinking just about his past or thinking about Faye or his son, going through a lot of emotions, are handled so well with dialogue and with animation and really just with visuals. Visually, this game is a storytelling visual game. There are so many scenes where he's sitting, looking at his arms with the chains. That is visual storytelling, ladies and gentlemen. He doesn't have to say any words, and you automatically know what he means and what he's going through, because the game does such a good job at portraying that through its visuals. I think also the characters play a big role in how well the writing is. There are so many diverse, expansive, such rich characters in the game, including Thor and Odin, which I think were the perfect choices to be the antagonists. I mean, it is Ragnarok after all, so you would kind of expect them to be. And we are Norse mythology, and that was kind of the cliffhanger at the end. But I think Thor, for one, really was, in my opinion, in terms of everybody you fought and every antagonist in the game, was the MVP. He over-exceeded my expectations tenfold. Absolutely incredible. Odin, anytime he was on screen, captivated you, got your attention, you wanted to know more, you wanted to see more. And that leads me to what I think really was special about the characters in this game, and that is the performances by everybody. I can't name you the actors and the actresses that played them all, because I honestly just don't know. But everybody, from Thor to Odin to Christopher Judge playing Kratos, to Atreus, to Freya, to Brock, Mimir, Sindri, the little girl giant that is good with animals. I forget her name. Angerboda. I don't know how to pronounce her name. I'm sorry. All of them were just absolutely incredible performances. Even Sif and Thrud, I think, did phenomenal jobs. Every performance was spot on, which is funny because I finished the game one day after playing Wakanda Forever, or not playing, but watching Wakanda Forever, and that was a movie where I think every actor and actress played their role to perfection. And I also think this is one of the only games where I can say every character and every actor and actress played their role to absolute perfection. It true art what they were able to do. I think Kratos definitely brought his A game. He typically always brings his A game, but this is definitely my favorite Kratos that we have gotten. There are a lot of moments where you really just feel what he's going through, and you really feel what kind of emotion he's bringing to the table, especially when you're in those scenes where he's fearing for his son, and when he's ready to do whatever the heck is necessary to get his son back. And when he's talking about how he will unleash the monster if he needs to, and all his regrets, and how he won't regret killing certain people. And it really just hits really deep and really just brings such a great depth to Kratos. Absolutely incredible. Atreus, definitely, I liked him a lot more in this one than I did the 2018 game. Well, for a big reason that we'll talk about here a little bit, but I also just think his role that he played and everything was so much more grand and expansive and in depth, to the point where there was a lot you can do with Atreus in this game, and there was a lot you did. And that kind of leads me to our next topic, and that is the gameplay. God of War gameplay has always been phenomenal. It's always been like a standard for gaming. 2018's game brought a whole new standard for God of War gameplay, and God of War Ragnarok improved on it ×3. Number one, the combat is glorious. The combat is perhaps one of the best combats like ever. The satisfaction, the amount of depth it has to it, and the fact that they were able to expand it as much as they did in this game is just absolutely outstanding. Santa Monica did a phenomenal job. But apart from the combat, which we are going to still talk about, one of my biggest issues with the first game was the lack of boss fights and the lack of enemy variety. Yeah, Ragnarok crushed those criticisms I had in the first game and absolutely fixed it, and I am so happy. There are so many more enemies, so many different types of enemies. Every corner you go, you're almost seeing a new enemy, and there are tons more boss fights. Thank you. This is the God of War I wanted, and this is the God of War that we got, and I am so thrilled. So many memorable moments and impactful ones were due to the gameplay, like the final mission, the opening mission. I haven't even talked about that. The opening mission is probably one of the best openings in gaming, and it all just comes down to gameplay. Gameplay really carries this game. Yes, it's a story-driven game. Yeah, like the story is like the big thing that, like, you know, you kind of have to get right with a game like this, but to be fair, no one would be playing this game if it wasn't for the gameplay. Nobody would be playing any game if it wasn't for the gameplay. If I wanted to see a story, I would just watch the story. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to just watch a story, absolutely go do it. It's a phenomenal story. But we play the game because there's gameplay, and the gameplay is phenomenal. With the combats, I can't believe what they did, man. In the first game, you had to unlock a skill tree for the Blades of Chaos and the Leviathan Axe. In this game, they kind of just kept that entire skill tree and just made entirely new ones while keeping everything you already learned in the first game. So, in other words, there's about double, maybe even triple the amount of things in combat you were able to do from the first one. And that's crazy because guess what? They added a third weapon. The oh boy, how do I pronounce it? Dropnir spear. The spear. They added a spear, which is crazy because number one, in terms of story, that is the Spartan's first weapon. So that is super awesome to see Kratos have a spear, and it's really, really fun. You got ice, fire, and wind now because of the spear, and with an entirely new skill tree, it absolutely was a huge surprise and a huge joy and positive for me in the game. As well as the traversal, they added a lot more traversal and a lot more movement to the game, which I think helped it a lot more chain swinging, a lot more climbing, a lot more dodging attacks. There's so much more traversal and movement. It's awesome. With sledding, boat riding, there was just so many more things you're able to do, and it's awesome. The music is outstanding in every scene that it's in. And that's the thing, is what I think this game does so well with the music. It knows exactly where and how to use the music. Every scene it's in just brings so much more emotion and feeling to the moment. I can really crisply remember, I know that's a weird word, crisply remember so many moments, and so many moments when I heard the music, it was like, this is beautiful, this is incredible. And that's because the music does such a good job at setting the mood and bringing to life what the game wants to do. Absolutely incredible. And now we go to the camera work and the visuals, and just, oh my gosh. You guys already know from the first game, these God of War games are one shot. They are, the camera never cuts. It's all taken in one shot. It just follows, right? And they did that again, and again, it is the best camera work in gaming. Cannot change my mind. It is the best camera work in gaming. I felt that way with the first God of War. I think the first God of War was the best camera work in gaming. This one now takes the cake for the best camera work. Number one, no game has ever been able to do that, do one shot, and God of War did it. I don't know how. When you're fighting bosses, the crazy things you're able to do and the crazy camera angles you get are just out of this world. When you're fighting the big dog, which is now Fenrir, the realm-tearing dog, when Kratos is on the chain and he gets flung, oh my gosh, that camera work, I literally just started cheering because I was like, this is art. This is beautiful. Visually, the game is great. God of War always, it's never always been about the most realistic graphics, even though the graphics are realistic. It has that God of War style to it, and it's just absolutely beautiful again. All the different realms that you get to go to, all the different areas are really cool, really exciting. And yeah, visually, I just think the game is great. Special effects with the ice, wind, fire, with the enemies is awesome. And also, we're gonna go back to gaming because I completely forgot. There are multiple characters in this game, ladies and gentlemen. This game broke records. This game has broken history with God of War in making the first ever playable character that is not Kratos, according to my memory. And that is Atreus. You actually get to play as Atreus, and you get to play as him a lot. I'll talk about that later in the video, but you get to play as him a lot. And he has his own movesets and everything. Freya also becomes a support. She has this own skill tree, and that's really awesome. I was not expecting that at all. You also do get some other supports like Agraboda. I don't know how to say her name. Atreus's giant girlfriend. Yeah, she also is a support. Absolutely awesome. And that leads me to the content, the length, the value, the performance. And again, PlayStation and their value and performance, for the most part, was great. I mean, there are still so many side quests I have to do, so many collectibles, and I'm super excited to do that, as well as I will be playing it for a second time because I loved it that much. And just the absolute value you got out of this game is incredible, absolutely incredible. And the performance, it is a buttery smooth 60 frames per second. If you want to go 4K, you can. And there are minimal bugs, very minimal bugs. And so yeah, absolutely incredible. There are so many things that are good about this game. The dialogue is one of my biggest takeaways. I think the dialogue is just some of the best in any video game. I think the music is incredible. The gameplay, I think, is gameplay or story are debatably the best parts. I'm not sure yet. I really don't know. I can't decide yet. But there are some things that I do want to talk about that I think are mixed. And this mixed category, which we are moving to our next segment, mixed is things that I don't necessarily think bring the game down, but are things that I would maybe change, or it's things that don't necessarily bring it up either. It's just kind of, okay, it is what it is. Okay. And that is, and guys, this is just me. I think Atreus's playtime is a little much. There was one part, I think it's, when you play as Atreus and you find Angraboda. I really need to learn how to say her name. And you're like in the weird jungle area with her. And then you go see Jormungand. There was that time when I was like, man, I've been playing as Atreus for like 2 hours. Like, I kind of want to play Kratos again. Because, yeah, Atreus' gameplay is really fun. I love it. Like, I think what they did with Atreus' gameplay is perfect. But at the same time, I do love Kratos way more. And I would, I did feel myself when you'd be like, hey, all right, I kind of want to go back to Kratos now. It's not something that I think, like, I wouldn't say that that's a negative thing. It's just something I would have been like, I don't know. It's just something that I didn't necessarily think was good, but I don't think it's bad. That was really only one time when I was like, all right, I want to go back to playing Kratos. Granted, there are other missions where, like, yeah, you play as Atreus. You play as Atreus a lot, all right? There's like 6 whole missions where you just play as Atreus. And I think that's awesome, because that's the thing. That's one of the positive things about this game, is that you get to play as other characters. But the mix is you have to play as Atreus a lot. But that's okay. I'm not upset about that. I don't think that is a bad thing. It's mixed. Some of the other mixed things, this is just a little gripe. Some of the animations for certain interactions get kind of annoying after a while, because they kind of just take a long time, and there are moments when it kind of like can slow down the moment, or like deafen it. Like when you're squeezing through like walls and Kratos like steps to the side, and you have to wait for Atreus to go in first, and then Kratos goes and you have to walk through. It's kind of like, it just takes a little longer than I feel like it should. I would just like to speed it up when you're opening or closing like the wardrobe. I feel like just some of the animations are a little longer than they need to be. I don't mind that they're long. See, and that's why it's mixed. I don't mind that they're long. Like, I really have no issue with it. But if I was the creator, I would just speed it up a little bit. Just a little criticism, but overall, there's not much I'm really mixed about. There's just a lot of good and some bad, which I will now talk about. And the bad problem, I think there really is no biggest issue with the game. I don't think, to be honest, there's barely any issues. I personally, and I know this is just gonna sound like I'm a Sony pony. I'm just gaslighting this game. I almost have no problems with this game. That being said, I don't think it's perfect, and there are a couple things I would like to talk about. I think number one, which is kind of the first thing I noticed, the UI is kind of, I don't know, the UI is kind of meh. It's really overwhelming. I don't necessarily find it a bad UI, but I definitely like the first one's better. And there was a lot of it just was very cluttered. And you almost feel claustrophobic, and there's so many times when you're like go to do something and then you click the wrong button, then you go to like the armor and then you go to another character and you're like, I just want to do that. Like the UI is really complicated and overwhelming. It's not the biggest issue. Like I said, all these things that are in bad are very minuscule, minor issues I have with the game. Another thing is, which is funny that this is one of my criticisms because it was something they technically fixed from the first game. I said in the first game there weren't enough enemy variety. And while they did fix that, I think not even that there's too much enemy variety. I just think at times there's too many enemies. There are some missions where every corner you take, there's another wave of enemies. I don't mind it. I don't mind the combat. I think the combat is like near perfect in the game. But there were some times where I was in a mission and I'd be like, oh my gosh, more? Like, man, I can't go anywhere. Like there's so many enemies, and it's not the biggest issue. Like I said, all these problems are minuscule. It can be a little like, okay, come on, let's get moving. Like, I want to see some more story, or it's just kind of things that get you a little tired. But it's really minuscule. Like, I don't see it as a big problem, but it is something I did find a little issue with. Other things I think are more valid issues are, there were a lot of times when I think the sound or dialogue or music was kind of like out of sync where it should be. Like, there were multiple times when I was talking with Freya where her lips were not matching up to her words at all. Like, it's not even that it was just bad lip animation. Like, it was just like she was saying stuff and her mouth wasn't even moving, and then her mouth would move and she wouldn't be saying stuff, and it's just like, I think you're like the audio is just not synced up. But that's like that's just a minor like problem, to be honest. Like, that's not even an issue with the game. That's just, they're probably gonna patch it, you know. So I'm not gonna take that out of my review because I am playing it on the opening weekend, and like a year from now that probably won't be a problem at all. So I'm not going to take that away from the game. And that goes with the next thing. There are some graphic clipping, like Kratos holding an axe, and at one cutscene his hand was just through the axe, and it was weird. With a lot of other visuals, there were just a couple of clipping and rendering issues. And then there were some slight bugs where enemies clipping through walls, rocks, and stuff. And I did get stuck once, which was unfortunate, where I did have to restart the game. But to be fair, throughout most of my playthrough, I barely had any issues with bugs. So it's an extremely polished game and really well made. There were just a couple of issues. So, but yeah, apart from that, I have no other issues with the game. There are some story parts where, you know, maybe if I was the writer, I would change it. But that's not even something bad. That's just me being a creative person, being a fan of the series, you know. It's fun to think about that stuff, and I think the story's, like, I wouldn't really change a thing about the story. So, just absolutely incredible. And that leads us into the results, because we've talked about the good, we've talked about the mix, we've talked about the bad. I think you guys pretty much get it by now. This is absolutely one of my new favorite PlayStation games, and just games in general. I'm gonna hold by this right now. You guys probably aren't expecting this. I definitely wasn't expecting this. I thought the first game was incredible. 9.5 out of 10 the first game. There were just some issues I had. And I told myself back then, if they fixed what I didn't like about the first one, and if they improve what they did with the first one, I could see it being one of my favorite games of all time. I think this is the definition of a masterpiece. This is exactly what a sequel should be. I talked about that earlier. It is incredible what this game was able to do. I was a fan of God of War. I wasn't a diehard God of War fan. It wasn't like something where I'd always talk about or always like think about playing or listen to its music all the time. That has changed. I have been unable to stop playing. I've been unable to stop listening to its music. I've been unable to stop thinking and being excited for God of War. There's never been a time like this where I've just been so excited for God of War as a franchise than I am right now. And that is due to how flipping fantastic this game is. Kratos, Atreus, Freya, Thor are some of my new favorite characters. The opening and final mission is, and hear me out, you guys are probably going to disagree. I'm holding by this right now. The opening and final mission is my favorite in gaming. I can't think of an opening or a final mission that I have loved more than in this game. This is absolutely my current game of the year, and honestly, one of the best games I've ever played personally and critically. I mean, this is in the conversation for my top 10 games of all time for me. I honestly can't think of a better game. Now, yes, personally, I have personal favorites. There's no way this comes any close to Ghost of Tsushima or it might come close to Spider-Man and Just Cause, to be honest. Like it's high up there, a lot higher than I thought it was. But from a quality standpoint, from a critical standpoint, I can't think of a better game. I know a lot of people are going to say Elden Ring because it's currently in that Game of the Year competition with it. For me, it's not even a competition. I think God of War is extremely better. I cannot wait to play the side quest and play it for a second time. This is just, it's incredible what this game was able to do. It turned God of War, which I've loved, into something I honestly wouldn't live without. If there was a tier list, I know I did a tier list a while back where I had to choose whether I wanted to keep or get rid of a franchise. There's no way I'm living without this franchise because this game is incredible. The writing is beautiful. The music is beautiful. The visuals are stunning. The story is masterfully crafted, and the gameplay is exceptionally executed. Everything about this game screams peak gaming to me. I don't know what else to say. I know this entire review has just been me gaslighting the game, talking positively about the game. I sound like a Sony pony. I sound like a God of War simp. And at this point, I am a God of War simp because of this game. And there's nothing else but positive things to say. I'm not going to sit here and be fake and say critically and criticize the game for things that I shouldn't be criticizing, because I don't think there's much to criticize. For my personal score, I'll give it 10 out of 10. For my critical rating, I'll give 96 out of 100. And my tier grade is S, bringing my overall score to 10 out of 10 masterpiece. I'm being honest, and take this however you want. I can confidently say this, and I'm holding by this. I do think this is one of the best games ever created in history. This is one of my new favorite games. And God of War Ragnarok is the definition of a masterpiece, a gold standard, and a blueprint for story-driven action-adventure games moving forward. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, definitely leave a like, leave a comment, section down below provided, and please subscribe. The next game we will be reviewing is Mario plus Rabbids, because that was the other one I completed that I also have a lot to say about. Hopefully you guys are excited for the future of Gamer Unite as the brand new channel. I know it's going to be a big switch in the content that I'm doing, but I'm really excited and looking forward to it. God of War Ragnarok, absolutely incredible. 10 out of 10, 96 out of 100, S tier. I'll see y'all in the next one. G.A.M.E.R out. Peace.